This is Table Talk, the bonus episode for Live from the Table, the official podcast of the world-famous Comedy Cellar. This is Dan Naturman, host of Table Talk, along with co-host Periel Aschenbrand. Noam Dworman is here. He's the owner of the world-famous comedy club, and he is a co-host on the main episode, but on this episode, he's just a guest. He's a humble guest. And we also have with us Dara Gottfried. How do you do? She was married to the legendary Gilbert Gottfried. Who left us tragically a year ago. She is with us. How do you do? And she's a good friend of Periel's. How do you guys know each other?
We met one fine night at Balthazar through my best girlfriend, who came with me to see you in Chicago.
Oh, opening for Louis.
Louis.
You know Kat.
Yes, I met her when I was opening for Louis. And then we had a drink at a hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a crazy small world connection. My whole life feels like that.
I think I had just started getting into comedy. Even maybe not. It was might have even been before that.
Okay. But you also wrote your book based on her, right?
Yes, my first book, The Only Bush I Trust Is My Own, is about Kat, who is a former Mormon missionary, which I didn't know when I met her, and I thought she was actually trying to seduce me.
I love that story.
I know. I sat on her bed. She brought me upstairs to her dorm room. We were teaching on a summer arts program, and she said, "Come smoke a cigarette with me," which was scandalous. You weren't supposed to smoke in the rooms. And I sat on her bed, and I really thought she was trying to seduce me. And I felt something that I was sitting on, and I thought it was a vibrator. And I said, "Oh, excuse me." And I moved, and I picked it up, and it was a copy of the Book of Mormon.
That's crazy. Yeah.
First of all, let the record show Periel thinks everybody's trying to seduce her. Continue.
We were
Anyway,
discussing
that's
on
how
the
we met.
on the main podcast with a writer whether money buys happiness. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dara?
Oh, I do not think money buys happiness, but it definitely makes things. I do not think money buys happiness, but I definitely think it could make life easier.
Right.
But it doesn't make you happy.
Doesn't make you unhappy.
Doesn't make you unhappy. No.
Well,
What do you think?
I think that in an individual case, it might make all the difference. If somebody has a job that they really hate and money could liberate them from that job, that could make a significant difference in their happiness. I think money allows you also to be generous with others, which I think can provide you with a great deal of fulfillment, to allow you to do good works.
Right.
And pursue passions that you might not be able to pursue just because you wouldn't have the time if you were tied up with with work, and if that you might. So I think it can buy happiness.
Well, all of that is well and good, but I think that at the end of the day, what you said is true, that you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And also, if you talk to anybody who has gone through a major loss or tragedy, like Dara,
Well,
I'm sure that no amount of
Of
money
course
in the
not.
world would be worth.
You have to have
that.
your health and the health of your loved ones. Otherwise, money doesn't mean a whole lot.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
I want to go. Sorry, go ahead, Dara.
No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
would just edit my statement to say you're only as happy as your least happy child or your wife. Just
I don't know. I think it definitely makes things easier.
Sure.
For sure. But I think true happiness, I think back to my happiest moments, and it doesn't have anything to do with money, right? It
Right.
has to do with spending time with the people that we love. It has to do with laughter. It has to do with,
Yeah.
I remember
But-
one of my happiest moments had to do with a 19-year-old NYU student who came to the Comedy Cellar because she was looking for Steve Byrne. Well, Steve Byrne, the comic. Well, Steve Byrne wasn't here, but I was. And
that made you happy.
well, what happened? It took me a couple of weeks to ultimately to get into that dorm room, but I got in there all right, and That was a happy moment.
Well, the things that you're describing that make you happy, oftentimes those things wouldn't have happened if you didn't have the freedom that money buys you, which is kind of the.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't.
I mean,
think
you
that's
think about
true.
people in like, you know, that live in poverty or whatever. There wasn't there like a documentary or something called Happiness?
Yes, there
I
was.
think, and they
yeah.
they showed people from around the world that had like nothing
Yeah.
and how happy they were.
Yeah. No,
living
I
in,
don't
like-
think that's true. I think, think of the joy of being with your kids or being with,
Right, but if you're working 60 hours a week to try to pay the rent, you don't have as much time. I mean, listen,
right.
there's
I
some
know
of
what
everything.
you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Dara,
There's a
Or you're
book.
stressed, you're worn out.
There was a book, Sapiens, which discussed hunter-gatherers, and he made the argument. Yuval Harari, I think is
Harari.
Harari,
Yeah, he made the argument that being a hunter-gatherer was actually a pretty decent life. They had a lot of free time. They hunted and they gathered, which I guess might be fun.
They did stand-up comedy.
And then, but they only had to do that for like, I don't know how he knows this, and maybe he's wrong, but like they only had to do that for like 40 hours a week. It wasn't like working at Skadden Arps. It was like they had normal hours, and then the rest of the time, I guess they did whatever fun things prehistoric man did. I suppose they could play sports and have sex and sing around the fire and whatever. And then agriculture came along and kind of ruined everything. Because agriculture was more labor intensive, people had to work harder. They came into contact with animals and started getting diseases from these, the chicken pox or whatever, or the smallpox, that they get from animals. The animals are the vector,
right.
In the
which
wet markets?
which wasn't they didn't have that, but
They needed
animals
that.
were a vector for a lot of these diseases that hunter gatherers didn't have this issue with. They didn't live in in cities, so they couldn't spread disease. Anyway, hunter-gathering, that's the life for me.
Hunter-gatherer.
Maybe there's a tipping point to where there's like you have enough that you're not struggling,
Right.
but when you have like immense wealth, does it really matter? Like, does it get to the point where it's like,
I'm willing to take the chance.
I
Wait,
don't know.
can I just say that Dara recently became a published author?
Oh yes.
Oh well,
yes.
that's we should have
Yeah.
we should have started with that.
That definitely made.
So what's the book?
Oh, it's not a book.
No, I didn't get there. I didn't get that.
Not yet.
I only have
You got a
2
book
pages.
deal.
No.
it's not that. It's not
Published something
that
that's not a
exciting.
book.
Yeah,
Oh, she's a published author. An article.
People magazine. That's
Oh.
it.
No.
okay.
That's okay. I still wrote it.
Yeah.
Well,
It
what's
got
it?
published.
What's the article about?
No, it was a tribute to Gilbert for the 1 year because he passed away April 12th. So I wrote an article about that.
And you also started a foundation.
And I started a foundation, Gilbert Gottfried Myotonic Dystrophy Type 2 Fund at the University of Rochester.
And what is that?
And where he had a very rare condition called myotonic dystrophy type 2 that many people have never heard of, including many doctors.
Yeah.
Leave it to Gil.
Leave it to Gilbert. And he went years without anyone, no doctors knowing what the hell was going on. And so
Did you know he was sick? Did he know he was
it
sick?
wasn't like a sickness. It was more of like a condition.
Okay.
He had issues like getting on stage, like walking upstairs, that kind of stuff. It wasn't that dramatic.
Okay.
Right.
But
Until
anyway,
it was.
until it was more so. Yes, that's a whole another thing. But anyway, so I want to raise awareness because it was just discovered like 20 something years ago at the University of Rochester, and it ends up that it's the most prevalent adult onset type of muscular dystrophy, and it was just discovered, and no one really knows about it.
Wow.
So I started a fund at the University of Rochester to go directly to research and therapeutics now. So if you go to thehiddentalent.com, it'll actually thehiddentalent.org. Sorry, it'll take you there.
So why don't we do a fundraiser for it at the Cellar one day?
Yeah.
I mean, you have all these comedians. I'm sure would be happy to.
Hell yeah.
perform.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Judy Golden, her show was talking about comics that continue to do comedy despite illness.
Right.
And I don't know, did she cite Gilbert or not?
I
don't
just
think
saw
she
her
did.
show. It was wonderful, by the way. It was
show was
great.
great.
But
It was
Gilbert
great.
was,
No, because he wasn't like open about what was going on, really.
but he was still performing.
He did the night before he went to the hospital. He did a 2-hour podcast, and then the weekend before he did 3 sold out shows in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, at his theater. He was working like nonstop. Yeah, and a million cameos and blah 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 blah.
Cameo, by cameo, you mean the cameo.com.
Correct.
Where he where you
I bought my wife.
You bought where
Gilbert
he
Gottfried
like
thing
You
for-
did?
Yeah, yeah.
Get out of here!
Yeah.
Really?
for
yeah,
her
no,
birthday.
you were wondering whether
That's so
Gilbert
cool.
even knew who
He had
Noam
no idea
Dworman
who I
was.
was.
No,
That was what
that's
was
so crazy.
hilarious. I was there when she listened to it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. Oh my god, he loved doing those.
Yeah,
Did him
he
in
did a great
in the
job.
bathroom mostly. In his
He
underwear.
loved doing them because he was making money on the couch in his
Totally.
bathrobe.
He didn't have to do anything
Yeah.
basically.
Well, he must have been one of the more popular voices on it because he's such a recognizable voice.
I think he was like one of the top 3.
He must have been,
Wow.
And there's like 40,000 people
Yeah.
or something.
Because,
crazy
like,
that.
a lot of people, their voices aren't that interesting. Or I guess they do videos, right? They do
Yeah.
videos, so it's not just voice. But
I have a question. You don't have to answer this, or we can not have nothing. But maybe.
okay.
But what was his freak out level when he got in trouble with the Affleck?
Oh, it was
thing?
horrible.
It was.
Oh my god. Oh man. First of all, he was shocked because here we are. We're in Philadelphia. He was doing gigs, and I brought the kids to go see the sights and blah blah blah. It's a gorgeous day. We're walking around. He had just had a meeting the week before with his book publisher because he had a new book coming out, and Twitter was brand new. And they were saying, "Oh, you got to get on Twitter, blah blah blah." And he just got on Twitter. So here we are walking around, and I guess the tsunami happens, and he starts.
What year is this?
This was 2011.
Okay.
He starts getting tweets saying, "Where's our tsunami jokes?" Because he had just done The Aristocrats, and they're like,
That's Paul Provenza's movie. Yeah.
yeah, Paul Provenza and Penn Jillette, exactly. So that was 2005, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah. So here they're asked, where's our tsunami jokes? Where's our tsunami jokes? And he starts thinking, we're walking around, we're at Betsy Ross's museum, and he starts saying, Hebrew National Tsunami, Gwen Tsunami, just puns and stupid. And he does like 12 of them. And I'm like, I don't know if you should be writing this, Gilbert. He's like, type it. I'm like, I don't know. It's funny. Keep going. It's funny. Then he calls my friend David. He's like, David, can you make a website with just the jokes so more people could see them? Like, he was so proud of these jokes. He was so excited. And then that's a Sunday, whatever. The next day, I take the kids to preschool. And then I look at my phone and it says something like, Gilbert Gottfried gets fired from Affleck online. We see it online. So it was.
Is he the first person canceled? Like
he was. That's Whoopi said that in our movie that he was like
Did they?
the first person to be canceled. Yeah. So someone had to lead the path. But it was so ridiculous because the truth was that they had been telling us for years that like get ready because they wanted to hire someone for less money. I guess that wasn't union. And so we had been preparing. We knew that was going to come eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it went down I thought was so unfair. And then they went and had a whole national campaign with a whole, a commercial already in place with a silent duck. And
God.
it was already done. And let's find the next duck. And then they hire this guy,
they just announced that Tucker Carlson's going to do that job.
It was he was so upset about that.
did he ever get furious? Because no, I don't think anyone's ever actually seen it, and it's hard to imagine him
What?
being like furious, angry.
Oh.
No, he wasn't angry. He was upset and he was hurt and he actually cried. He was he was really upset because he's like, I don't understand. I didn't mean to do anything wrong.
Aw.
He's like, it's like you get up, you eat your Cheerios every day, and then all of a sudden you eat your Cheerios and all hell breaks loose.
Now,
He's making jokes. He's a comedian.
Was there a pretext to it? Was there some contractual term which they felt or claimed that he violated in order to get out from under their contract with him?
Basically, they could do whatever they want because he's work for hire, and it doesn't. They basically just didn't renew the contract. So that's all. It wasn't like he wasn't
terminate
fired. He wasn't fired. He was just they didn't renew the contract. But he wasn't allowed to say anything. The publishers like don't talk, and that was like
Now, Gilbert famously used to collect shampoo bottles and soaps
I
from
still have
hotels.
so many.
That
Oh
was
my
my
God, I go
question.
to my
What have you done with all of those? I mean, because there was a documentary of Gilbert, and under his bed there was
Oh, it's
thousands of shampoo bottles, bars of soap, whatever he collected from the hotel rooms that he stayed at over
Yeah,
the years.
I've given a lot away, but I still, for sentimental value, I've held on.
Now,
to.
was
And
that a
what's
symptom
that-
of his illness?
What's that?
Was that a symptom of his illness?
That was a
I'll
different
blame.
illness.
I'll blame that.
What was the story
There's
about?
some good stuff, actually. There's some really good stuff in there.
About that. What was that story about? Like he wanted to give it to his sister. He wanted to give bars of soap to his sister, but she said she didn't want mini ones.
That was such a good story. So he was living in this like rent-controlled like 2-bedroom apartment, and the second bedroom he used basically for all of his soaps and shampoos. I mean, the entire bedroom. There was boxes this big. Well, you can't see because I'm.
What is
was-
that exactly?
It's
Is there
hoarding. It's
that's-
hoarding. He had a framed picture of the Collier brothers on his wall. Do you know that story?
No.
They were the two brothers up in, I think it was the Bronx, and they were famous for hoarding. One of them like died from like stuff
it's
falling on
horrible.
him in his apartment.
Wait, I didn't hear the story about your. Did he?
Oh,
sister.
so what happened was he had the whole room full of soaps and shampoos and all this stuff, and we were finally going to move in together and got this nice apartment. We were moving in, and I was like, please, Gilbert, you gotta you can't bring a whole room full of soaps. Like, you gotta take some, but not an entire room full. So it was Mother's Day the next day. It was Mother's Day the next day. So he called his sisters. He's like, do you guys need any little soaps? And they said, no, only big bars. We only want big bars. So all night, he didn't tell me he was doing this. All night, he stayed up unwrapping all the small
Marrying the-
little things, running them under water,
Hot water.
smushing them together and squishing them and making bars of soap, dumping him in a garbage bag. And he showed up at breakfast the next day for Mother's Day brunch with a garbage bag, a huge garbage bag filled with big bars of soaps that he made out of mashed.
You are
little
Woman
soap.
of the Year. like that.
Hey, I'm single now. Any.
Now I have one other question. So with all this stuff, either you could save it and pass it down in your family, but if you were not going to do that, maybe you should auction some of it off. If we do a charity event,
We've
auction some of it off
talked
to
about
charity.
that.
Kind of brilliant
Yeah,
idea.
we've talked-
auction the
Yeah, we
Sounds
talked about auctioning
not a bad
it
idea.
off for
Not a bad
a
People would love that
fundraiser,
kind of
for sure.
memorabilia and stuff like that.
He also used to raid, like when he did a talk show in the green room, they would give you soda, and he took the
yeah.
soda.
Oh, took everything. Whatever was not nailed down. You would take.
What?
Now, do you think this is because he grew up poor, or is this just some bizarre?
I think it's a combination of growing up poor and the way he was raised, where basically he grew up living in the dining room. He didn't even have a bedroom, and his dad had the hardware store that never made any money. And I think growing up that way and seeing your parents be so frugal and stuff, I guess it just.
But he's
like in your
he's got
blood.
a quirky
And
personality.
it's just also
obviously.
it's obviously
But
some
also-
bizarre.
And he didn't understand math. He did not understand math. So like he didn't like 25 saving 25 cents on eggs seemed as important as $1 million.
But also at the same time, he
Periel.
let you shut up. Also at the same time, he let you run everything. So he trusted you to
That took a while.
Well, you bought a very nice apartment. I mean, he was okay with that?
It was stressful. He was finally okay with it, but he was scared out of his mind.
Right, but I'm talking about
Scared
going
me.
on vacations, going out to eat, buying clothes,
That took a long time. I mean, for Father's Day, the first year we were together, my dad, all he wanted was a receipt that Gilbert took me to dinner. And I had to spend a week finding a restaurant that had like an early bird special or something that he would be okay with, because I didn't want him to be too stressed out.
you're amazing.
That's so sweet.
But it is fair
So
to say that
sweet.
Gilbert was a wealthy man,
He was very wealthy, yeah. He was
and
wealthy.
yet
He was
despite that,
wealthy. But it didn't matter because he didn't use
He had
it.
no
He
idea
didn't
how
use
much
it.
money he had.
He didn't use it. He didn't live that way at all.
do you see any of
Which
those?
I actually thought was really beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
I thought that was really cool because who does that? Like it's great.
Well, you had one of the most unique relationships out of anybody I've ever met, in that you were so accepting. Relationships usually you get on each other's
I
nerves.
have to go. My
Okay.
appointment.
Oh,
became
you stayed.
late,
You
so I got-
stayed longer than.
because my appointment was late, but I have to
Oh.
go. It's nice. This is
Nice
a great
to see you.
conversation.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
All right.
Nice to see you.
It's unfortunate Noam's leaving because I wanted you to tell the story about
Well, listen.
about with the car with. You were there, weren't you? We just had with Gilbert. Jared Freed was driving him.
I don't think so. Maybe.
I don't know this story, do I?
Yeah, we
What
were
story?
just sitting. The three of us were just sitting together downstairs at the cellar with Rich Aronovich.
Oh, yeah.
This
He
is
didn't
like
say
the
a word.
greatest
Yeah.
story ever. That Jared Fried. You tell it.
You tell it.
No,
So he didn't say a word the whole time or something. I forgot
Jared
what
Fried was opening for Gilbert
okay.
in someplace, and basically the entire time Gilbert didn't know who Jared was, and he thought that he was just like some kid driving him around.
Yeah.
We'll get Jared or
right.
Rich on.
It was
some
a funny story.
Hysterical.
But his social skills really sucked. I mean, they were horrible. His social skills were terrible.
until you got to know him, and then he was fine.
Still, he was not so comfortable. Like it was really his social skills were.
But he was fine with like Jeff Ross or Bob Saget
Yes.
or people who
Yes.
he knew really well.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
because they could talk the same language. But if you talk a different language, about anything else, then he was.
So any comedians?
That's why I started the podcast.
Right.
Oh, you have
Because
yeah.
I started the podcast because we would go out to dinner, and the only way I'd get him to talk to the guests at the table was if I played the game 6 Degrees of Separation, and I said, okay, do you want to see what Gilbert could do? He could take name an actor, name another actor, name a comedian, and he could connect those two, and then he would connect the two, and then it would start
So
a whole
that-
conversation about movies and actors and blah blah blah, and then he could talk.
So his podcast was the Amazing Colossal podcast was your idea.
It was my idea
Okay.
to get him to talk, basically.
We worked on an incredible project together that didn't get very far. Do you remember that?
I still thought that was incredible.
So Gilbert had an idea to write for a TV show.
I kept bugging him. I was like, come on, come up with an idea, please, please, please. And he's like, all right, I have one idea.
And it was called, and so she called me and she said, will you come over and work on this with Gilbert? Will you write this with him?
Yep.
And now it's even more insane. So it was called Celebrity Funeral, putting the fun in funeral.
Okay.
And the idea was to talk in a very Gilbert way, to talk about this thing that was still really taboo, which everybody does, which is dying. And Gilbert's idea was, go ahead, Dara.
Basically, instead of comedians in cars, he would drive people around in a hearse. And
Plan their own funeral
you would plan your own funeral.
with his friends.
Yeah. I still think it's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
And what you wrote with Gilbert, we sat around the dining room table for many hours, and it was absolutely hysterical.
It was incredible. And
We
it
still
was,
should do it.
you could say, so it was like Martha Stewart and Snoop.
Right.
Right? Like you would pair people who were friends and they would drive around and you would sort of write your own eulogy together. It was a really beautiful, hilarious, totally insane.
I think it would have been so fun.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it is a good idea. Yeah.
Actually, after Gilbert's funeral, which I got to say was absolutely
As funerals
funny.
go, is one of the funnier ones.
It was so funny.
You know,
It
Jeff
was
Ross
so funny.
basically roasted him.
I know. It was amazing.
and-
I went and bought funnyfuneral.com afterwards because I was like, how great would that be to have like comics, like you could hire a comic to write your eulogy.
It's great. It's great.
What were you going to say?
I think I forgot what I was
Oh,
going to
okay.
say.
You said that as funerals go.
No,
it was-
I said that. Yeah, I said that. As funerals go, is probably the funniest one I've been to. You
Yes.
know, mostly because of Jeff Ross and who else spoke? Frank Santopadre, but he wasn't funny.
Susie Essman,
Susie Essman.
Gino Salamone.
Oh, okay.
He's a friend of Gilbert.
All right.
It was really funny.
Really, Jeff was hysterical.
Jeff was hysterical. And wasn't the rabbi really funny too?
so funny. So funny. He was a
Right.
big fan of the podcast. Rabbi David.
It's
Great.
and Lily, your daughter, just made a documentary about Gilbert too, right?
That's right. I'm trying to figure out the best way to
Is it
share it.
how long is it?
Eight and a half minutes.
Okay, so it's a short, little
short.
mini documentary. But she did it as a school project.
Did it as a school project, yeah. My daughter's at a great school that has a film program. You could actually have a film major, which I've never heard in a high school. It's pretty cool. And the teacher's awesome. But anyway, she's taking a documentary class, so she made this documentary short. She thought it would be cool to make a documentary about the fact that Gilbert was an artist and no one knew that he was a visual artist. They only knew him as a comedian or podcast host or actor.
I want to buy one of those prints.
So I'm trying to figure out, I want to make them like maybe do limited editions or posters or something. We should talk about that.
Okay.
But so Lily made this doc and she just went on Pix 11 and on the news.
And what's it called and where can you watch it?
It's called The Hidden Talent of Gilbert Gottfried.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a website that she started, The Hidden Talent of Gilbert Gottfried.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that you could see the trailer.
Amazing.
And then soon she'll probably put on YouTube or something, or figure out how to.
So she's into filmmaking,
She's
and your son is into comedy, or
he's well. His new thing is he says he wants to day trade, and he made 90 cents today.
Okay.
He sent me a screenshot. He's like, "Look, I made real money today, Mommy. I made my first." It's so funny. I got the text. I made my first real money. I made 90 cents.
Amazing.
But he's so funny and he does impressions.
Well, I still get checks for less than that from SAG.
There you go.
Residual check.
There you go. I don't know what he wants to do. He says he wants to be on Saturday Night Live. He says he wants to do stand-up. But he also, says that he wants to, own,
But he's
own
done
a mansion.
it. But he's done that.
Well,
I
one
mean,
can
he's
one can own a mansion and do stand up. It's there's a few that most of us don't, but there's a few that do. I saw Trevor Noah's house. It really knocked me for a loop. I had to sit down. I saw a picture of his house in People Magazine or Insta, whatever it was. It's like Trevor can afford that. I mean, it looked like Brangelina, level house.
Wow.
I didn't know Trevor was that rich.
But that's not just from doing stand-up. That's from his TV
Well, that's
show.
but even then, I didn't think he would have a house like that. And it was just absolutely ginormous.
Wow.
Like I said, you think Brangelina would live in a house like that?
Brangelina.
Well, they're not Brangelina anymore. They're Brad and Angelina. They broke up like Czechoslovakia. I had a joke once about that. Is it Czechoslovakia? They broke up. So is it now Brad? Is it now? So now Brangelina is now Angelina and the Brad Republic. It was just a play on the.
It's good.
Nobody laughed, but whatever. But I was comparing Brangelina to Czechoslovakia because it's Czechs and the Slovaks.
Got it.
Yeah, all right. I'm over-explaining. But anyway, yeah, I was knocked for a loop. I was knocked for a loop. I had to, Mulaney probably has an enormous house.
I have no idea.
That would also knock me for a loop, even more so. But the point is, you can be a comedian and be rich.
I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know. He likes math.
But it's tough going.
He's got a great personality. He's very personable and funny, and he does spot on imitations. It's crazy.
Of his father, I assume he does them.
He does. He was doing Gilbert tonight.
Yes.
He was doing Gilbert tonight. He was doing Gilbert coming home after a long walk.
I do Gilbert.
That was his impression. He's like, look, I'm like Daddy after a long walk. I just got home from a long walk. Isn't that crazy?
I do like Gilbert, but not yelling. Like, okay, okay. I don't know.
It's good.
It's sort of the non-yelling Gilbert, the Gilbert that most people don't hear. Gilbert not yelling.
It's just crazy because Gilbert started when he was 15. He dropped out of school and he started stand up at 15. And Lily's 15 and just made this doc. And Gilbert started by doing impressions, and Max is so good at impressions. It's just crazy, how
it is.
The apples in the tree.
I don't know.
They don't fall so far.
It's wild.
But the whole notion of Gilbert having kids is insane to begin with.
It was.
And that these kids are really great kids and well adjusted is even more.
They are
shocking.
Yeah, he was kind of more of a brother or baby brother. Max would call him his baby brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, did he have it in him to discipline, or
no?
You had to do all the discipline.
No. I did everything. No, he was a child. He was another child. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, it worked.
Makes it fun, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Anyway, I'm really proud of Lily. She worked really hard on this movie. I can't wait for everyone to see it.
I am. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And Ari, my son knows all about Gilbert. First of all, because of us, but also because I forgot to tell you this. He voiced the dentist.
Oh, in Fairly Odd Parents, is that right?
In Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah.
And Ari recognized
that's crazy.
his
How old
voice.
is he?
He's 9.5.
Wow.
But also saw his name afterwards and was like, Mommy, it's Gilbert. And we wore matching Gilbert T-shirts the other day because the one that you gave me, and then do you have a Gilbert Gottfried T-shirt?
No, but wouldn't be averse to having one.
You wouldn't be averse to having one there.
GilbertGottfried.com.
GilbertGottfried.com.
I'm updating the website.
So what's the
to-do
website?
list.
We got to wrap it up, but the website for the myotonic muscular dystrophy, how can one support that?
TheHiddenTalent.org. You could donate money, which is the name of Lily's movie.
TheHiddenTalent.org. That's where you can donate for myotonic muscular dystrophy type 2. I assume there's a type 1.
There's a type 1 and there's a type 2, and it's very different. His is type 2.
And you can see Lily's documentary there as well.
You could, if you go to The Hidden Talent of Gilbert Gottfried.
Okay.
I know it gets a little complicated.
It's complicated.
It gets a little
You guys will figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out and
But
put it on
like
YouTube.
our listeners,
Okay.
like just get on Google and start hacking away, and you will come across it.
And we're going to make it available very soon. This month. This month.
Great. Thank you, Dara Gottfried, for joining us.
I don't use Kravitz really. It sounds. It is my maiden name.
Well, don't you have it on Facebook? Aren't you Dara Kravitz?
Yeah, I guess I
Dara
do.
Kravitz.
Okay.
No relation to any.
No relation.
So that's why I thought you went by that.
That's
But
okay,
anyway,
that's
Periel, thank you.
Thank you.
I shouldn't thank you because you're the co-host, so I don't thank you.
No, you
Thank
don't.
you, co-hosts.
Yeah,
You
I don't
can
thank the
find
co-host.
us on Instagram. I'm at Periel Aschenbrand, and Dan's at Dan Natterman, and at Live from the Table.
Thank you. This has been Table Talk. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.